Previously on Man, Children of the Atom. God, they all had to have crucifixes in their bedrooms. That's awkward when they hit puberty and start jerking off and accidentally have a come to Jesus moment.
And she goes, "It ain't that sort of probe." What a threat.
The rocket punch. I'm a sucker for a fucking rocket punch.
There have been a couple times in this season where Wolverine is like, "Just a reminder, I love it when we kill people." Like, back when you could just race change a character and Reddit could not scream at you endlessly.
No, Reddit wouldn't scream at it because they could still jerk off to her.
And there's some panels where that's a thing that they're inviting you to do.
Big time.
I want Nightcrawler to do my eulogy.
Welcome back to Man, Children of the Atom, Episode 8, talking about Episode 8 of X-Men 97, Tolerance is Extinction, Part 1. I'm Matt.
I'm Bret.
Brett, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. And I think that it's very suiting that we're doing this episode because we are recording in October.
It is October. My favorite month. Well,
my favorite month as well. Oh, I think it's number one for me with a bullet.
It's my favorite season. It's got one of my favorite holidays.
Absolutely. I actually was enjoying, in air quotes, a horror movie before we came on. And it was not a good horror movie to watch before because it's a Polish witch movie called, and I'm gonna destroy this title, Hagazi. I don't speak Polish, but it's a very slow, somber, grim. Like, it's the 15th century, and we're alone, and there's just not much going on, and we're slowly descending into madness.
Oh, strange. And it was
just
the
like
usually upbeat and vigorous Polish people. I think back to my own Polish heritage and that side of my family.
And it put me in a place where I'm just like, oh man, now I have to have like energy to talk about these zombie robots.
Oh yeah.
Which we will get into, but not my favorite conceit in for the end game of this season.
Do tell. Go on.
Still good episodes. We'll get out of the way now. I'm never a big fan of enemies that are unkillable because here's what ends up happening. First, it's like, oh, none of our attacks work. Let's keep doing them. And then it's like, well, that's foolish. Or, and this happens in this episode as well, it's like, oh, they're unkillable. Let's keep using our powers again. And then they start working to a certain degree. And it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And I also just find it kind of boring because it sort of eliminates the struggle, right? It's like two forces colliding together. The fun of that is like seeing that struggle go back and forth. It's like a wrestling match. Like first one person starts to lose and the other person starts to lose. It's that push and pull. But with zombie-esque characters like this, not just zombies, but like unkillable zombies, it's like, well, nothing's really working. They're always going to repair themselves. And I get the metaphor that we're playing here. It makes a lot of sense. I just think it's never as satisfying as just like when they're fighting Magneto or Sinister or something.
I see your point. I wonder if a constraint they had to work within, and this doesn't remove your indictment of that kind of trope, that kind of structure broadly, but for this particularly, given, right, it's an animated series, it is aimed at a little bit more adult audience than the original series, but still not exclusively. I wonder if they didn't want to or weren't allowed to have the body count and bloodbath, but that it would have been if they didn't regenerate. But then again, they did have the Genosha episode, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's always
but
hard
that was
to know
villains hurting good people. If it was the heroes and there's like just a pile of formerly human bodies at the end.
That's true.
Is that a bad look for this particular piece? I don't know. But I do see your point. It does. I do share the frustration of like, oh, they regenerate. Then what are they going to do? Oh, they're doing the same thing. Oh, it's working better now.
Yeah, especially this episode, it starts to get a little, I don't want to say unbelievable because obviously it's just a cartoon, starring the X-Men, but it starts to break its own internal logic. And it's not, I mean,
A bit.
these aren't game-breaking bugs, but it's
No.
just something where it's like, that kind of cheapens it a little bit. But yeah, well, let's get into
You
this.
want to get into it?
Tolerance's Extinction.
Let's do it. We
We open
open.
on the mansion.
We do.
Cable is doing some shooting practice.
Cable
Uh,
has learned that recycling is a scam.
Scheiße.
I'm not returning these for anything.
He's going through his who was that? It was the Unabomber that wrote his manifesto how
Oh boy,
recycling was fake.
he did write a manifesto.
I think it was
Was that one of the
Kaczynski
things
who-
written in it?
Yes, there was a bit of a his whole big thing was like technology is going to rule the world. Got to give him credit for that one. He was right, but another big part of it was that recycling was fake. But I have not read this manifesto. Just to be clear to the readers, I've only this is secondhand information.
Yeah, no, it was just he just described it to you in detail.
Yeah, well, we and the letters I was writing him in prison, he was sort of a
And Ted, we know you're a fan of the show.
thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Like and subscribe. Is he dead? Did they kill him? Is he still alive?
I honestly don't know the answer, but there goes.
Vamp,
But if
quick,
he's
I'm gonna
if
look
he's
it up.
gone, then that's like a quarter of our audience.
No, quite dead. June 10th, 2023.
Oh, so
Bahama, North Carolina.
well, there you have it, folks.
Ted
The
Kaczynski
Unabomber
dead at the age
is-
of 81.
81. Wow.
He hung out there. Oh, he looked terrible too by the end. All right. So Cyclops and Cable are not speaking. Cable has not really approached Cyclops. We learn from Jean Grey that the story is that he and Bishop got separated right from the time tunnel. So that whole plan went tits up right away. Cyclops is not happy about that.
Yeah, the father, the avoiding each other stuff. I forget specifically what it was in reference to, Brett. A few episodes ago, maybe it was like, it was the Shi'ar stuff. The Shi'ar family drama is a black hole thing. And you point out, boy, the writers may be working through some stuff, and well, now we get to some parent-child relationship stuff. Maybe they are continuing to work through some stuff, and you know what? Good for them. Working through your stuff is a noble cause, folks.
God bless them. It's one of those things where I actually think that they do a pretty good job here at times. Sometimes it's a little they don't do the heavy lifting, but it's sort of Cyclops dealing with like, my son is back, but he's not really talking to me. I like that Jean Grey's always referring to him as Nathan. She doesn't call him Cable anymore.
Yeah,
it's a nice little touch. But
Cyclops. I do like, as you pointed out, this conceit that Bishop was like, I'll take great care of your son, got into the portal, was like, whoops, Butterfingers.
Yeah, immediately lost this baby. Immediately lost him. And Cyclops does have a good, then what was it for this all to happen?
Yeah, right.
I did write a note here, though, which you can appreciate. Just being a dad, man, what a nightmare.
Oh, it is a challenge.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
It is a challenge.
We do in this scene get a great shot of the original team, which I always appreciate.
Yeah. Oh, on the photo? Yep.
Yeah, the picture on the wall. Cable then gives us a quick info dump about who Bastion is.
Yep.
Which leads us to our X-File for today.
Go. Yes. Oh, crack it open.
I was thinking we might need to get like an X-File theme that we play for when we do this. I don't know what it would be.
It needs to be the exact number of seconds that we're still within fair use and don't have to pay any royalties.
It wouldn't be the X-File theme. Here's what I'm thinking.
Oh?
I get like a comic book, right? And I flip the pages.
Oh,
it's like the sound of the pages flipping, and maybe we put some music over it. Maybe we tap Graham for another musical interlude.
Or alternately, can we get the synth whistle voicing to cover a few notes of the X-Men theme? Would that be enough of a tribute?
What if we do like an 8-bit version of it? Like the people that do 8-bit versions
like
of
a
songs?
chiptune one? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. We're working it out. We're iterating on this. All right.
That's right.
So Bastion's first appearance comes in May of 96. It's X-Men number 52. His creators are Scott Lobel, very good writer, and Pasquale Ferry. His name, which I don't know if we get it in the cartoon, is Sebastian Gilberti.
We don't get the last name in much like this. His mother does say the full name, Sebastian.
And I'm not going to jump too deeply into who he is because a lot of it is covered in the cartoon. He's sort of this, OZT is from the comics. That he is a synthesis of
Master Mold and
Nimrod. Master Mold and Nimrod is in the comics. One thing I will say is that one of his deaths does come in one of the last X-Men books that I read, which is the Mutant Messiah Second Coming kind of trilogy. It's covered in 3 volumes. This is after the House of M, when there were no more mutants,
Oh, okay.
and it's sort of like the X-Men are on the run, and mutants are dealing with the reality of like no new mutants have been born.
Right.
Mutants have sort of run their course, and they're kind of facing the idea of extinction for the first time. And then Hope is born. There's a girl
Hope
is
Summers,
born
right?
as a mutant. And that's right.
Yeah.
And it's all about like, and then there's obviously like this big, she becomes sort of the MacGuffin of that series, and they're trying to protect her, and people are trying to kill her. It's 3 books. I can turn around in my bookshelf really quickly.
Great.
Messiah Complex,
So,
Messiah War, and Second Coming.
so reader, I want you to imagine a bookshelf, or reader, listeners, imagine a bookshelf and a handsome man looking back and forth at his bookshelf and back at the screen.
Yeah, trying to not leave too much dead space in between. The first and third of those books are really good. Messiah War, meh, it's okay. But Messiah Complex and Second Coming are quite good. It's also Ed Brubaker's a writer on those, and Ed Brubaker is one of my favorite comic book writers.
Got it.
He's great.
So that Bastion came back in that storyline, you're saying?
Yeah, he comes back. I mean, those books are one of the X-Men books where it's like, let's bring a bunch of people back. Like, let's get all the big villains here, and let's get everybody
play the
sort of
hits.
has a moment.
Because I remember the issue that you brought up. Would you say number 52 of X-Men Volume 2? So that was during my like active collection phase. So the opposite to the original Bastion storyline that I did follow live, like as it was coming out. So this is a character I was very familiar with. I liked about that. So is I like Iceman, and it was a very Iceman centric plot line that ran through it. He happened to be not with the other X-Men when like half were in space and half were captured. So like kind of like he was who's left to gather up some ragtag help and like do Iceman shit for a while, which I was down with.
Nice. So we'll go to Close the X-Files. We don't want to go too deep into it because, like I said, so much of it is in this episode.
That's true. Not
Iceman,
though.
No, Iceman, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, except I guess that little picture that you mentioned.
Yes. We get the original version of Iceman where he looks more like a glob of fluff than actual Iceman. We get Cable telling us about a utopian future, which is made possible by mutants being slaves.
Yeah, and I did kind of like that little twist on it where instead of like the gritty everybody's miserable future, it does like there's these shots of this like it looks like this future utopia kind of vision, but it's on the backs of this oppressed class of people who are instead of getting to benefit from them, just exploited for them.
Yeah, it made me think of a very depressing film that came out, I'm going to say last year or 2 years ago, Zone of Interest.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
It's very sad, but it's basically the plot of the film is it takes place in the house of a Nazi officer who is like he's a higher up in Auschwitz, and their house like abuts the wall of Auschwitz. So like they're literally living like this very idyllic life with it's a husband and a wife and their several kids, and like they have family that visits them and friends that visit them, and it's the summer and they're having like a birthday party for the kid, and it's them living like a perfect life while the horrors of Auschwitz happen literally behind this wall. Like the soundscape of that movie is like the faint cries of Auschwitz behind it. Yeah, brutal. Yeah. Excellent movie, but brutal stuff. It's an incredible film. But this made me think of it where it's just like this idea of utopia built on the backs of servitude and horror.
Yeah.
And I think that it's very interesting because usually in the X-Men world, I think what you were kind of alluding to is the future is always grim. The future is always like
it's Days of Future Past.
It's the eternal second act of like the longest war you could ever imagine between mutants and humans.
Yes.
And it's like they've been fighting for years and everything is destroyed. And they're just kind of fighting now, not even to have like a better life, but just to not be a loser. So to see this alternate world where it's like, well, if they enslave mutants, it's like Shangri-La for humans.
Yeah. Kind of like the South in American history. If they can just enslave a whole cast of people, then their life can be better.
Yeah. And nobody ever has to work.
Yeah. History is written by the victors. And there's a whole bunch of people in that future who are like, it's the good timeline. Everything worked out.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're making jokes. They're
Yeah.
they're living high. I think it's Wolverine asks demands to know why Cable didn't stop Genosha.
Yes.
Uh, Beast gives us this line. He says, "The mystics of Kamartaj speak of
Yeah.
absolute points." I
I
Is that from comics, Kamartaj?
Yeah, that's so. And actually, I wrote this down too because that's a Doctor Strange thing. Kamartaj is the where
Mm,
Doctor Strange learned magic. And I don't know. I through most of my life when I've liked comics, I've tended to appreciate like this kind of cameos, like it's part of a bigger universe. But I don't know if this is just an effect of the X-Men stuff being so siloed for years because like Marvel films didn't own the rights to do anything with them.
mhm.
It felt jarring. It felt like, oh, you got a little Doctor Strange in my X-Men over here. And it's like, I don't dislike that character. And I'm like, I had to check. I was like, I used to love that when I would read the books and it was like, oh, there's a panel with Spider-Man on it.
Yeah.
Spider-Man
In
might
this
visit.
episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Also this episode. Exactly. But there was something with this where maybe it's just with the knowledge that like, is this sort of like the Disney Marvel flex of like, we own all
Mm.
of these now.
Yeah, I mean, it's all that stuff is kind of tainted now because it's all in service of this massive entertainment conglomerate. Um, but I'm still even though I was like, is Kamartaj a Marvel thing? Is
It
it,
is. No, that is.
something that I wasn't aware of in the real
Yeah.
world?
But like, why does Beast know it?
He knows everything. Reese is a
No,
smart guy.
he does, but like I don't know. It's like outside of his disciplines, right? He's into science and medicine and literature. I just don't see Beast as being like versed in like magic.
Yeah, that's true. He's more of like a philosophy guy and like
Yeah.
you said, science.
I mean, maybe Magic the
Um,
Gathering. I could see him playing that with
oh, he's a
down in the
big.
basement.
Oh yeah, he's putting on the hat and the trench coat to sneak into a comic book shop after
Oh
hours.
my stuff!
Big
Come on
time.
over, Banshee. We'll play.
Hmm. Oh, Banshees. Who is Beast playing Magic the Gathering with of all the X-Men?
Said Banshee for no reason. God, who else would it be? You know what? I think Wolverine tries it once because he's lived so long he'll like try anything once.
He's like, listen, I'm playing this, but I'm getting drunk while I do it.
And we're
He's
playing.
drinking heavily.
We're playing for money.
Yeah,
Iceman would play with him. They're like best buds in the comics.
yeah, they were good friends. They were pals.
Yeah.
You know who would play? Kitty Pryde.
She totally would.
Kitty Pryde would be a dynamite Magic the Gathering player.
That's a good call.
Um,
I will say this is before the line we just said, but I like that they keep Cable's little floating computer cube that he keeps in his arm. I think
Yes.
that's charming.
I always love that little thing. In the original show, it would kind of like banter with him sometimes.
Yeah.
I
Computer.
I am a fan. I am a fan of quippy computers. Bo- different company, but Booster Gold from DC has also a quippy computer that he
Let's
talks
see.
to.
I never knew that.
There's a very poignant line here, I think, where we're talking about how they're the absolute points
Yeah.
and you can't change things. And Cable tried many times to change it. And Jean Grey says, "You're why Madeline was happy when she sort of trails
that's
off."
right.
And it's this really interesting idea that like they don't really talk about it a lot. I kind of wish they spent a little bit more time on it, but you get the sense that they constantly had a psychic bond. Like they were constantly feeling what each other were feeling. This comes up a little bit later with a great scene with Nightcrawler. But nice little moment where she felt what Madeline felt
Yeah.
right before the end.
Oh,
And it also gives us an interesting view of Cable. I feel like we always get him as like this beleaguered soldier who's trying to preserve or save the future. And it's interesting to see him. He's kind of more of a revenge. He's like, he killed my mom.
Yeah.
And it's like more personal for him than just like saving this abstract future.
because he already in that kind of like soldier, he already failed the mission.
Yeah, many times.
And then the news turns on and it's this, I don't know, it's a little weird. Like we have proof that Professor Xavier's giving speeches in an alien empire. I'm like, does the public care or know at all about this? Like, why is this so effective at turning to the tide?
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing. What you got to understand, Matt, because it's not what the public cares about. It's what the media can push.
Yeah.
And the anti-mutant media is going to have a field day with this, as illustrated by, I forget if it's this scene or a later scene, Stryker is having a field day on the news program. He's yelling up a blue streak.
Oh, sure.
About how they pretended that this guy was dead. I wrote my notes. I can't find it now. But William Stryker, man, he would be a terror on Twitter if he was a real life person.
And now
he would be unbearable.
Now this is set in '97, so I'm trying to think timing wise. Is Stryker on like the O'Reilly Factor? Like what was in 1997? What was the equivalent of?
Yeah, the O'Reilly Factor has to be around. I mean, what was the set?
I don't know.
Saturday Night Live used to do a spoof of it.
The 700 Club?
No, it was 4 people and the host, and the host's name was the name of the show.
Hardball with Chris Matthews.
No, it's not Chris Matthews. It's another old white guy who I cannot remember what his name is.
Wait, is it Larry King? No, that's an old.
No, it's not Larry King. Yet another old white guy who told us what the news was supposed
Let's
to be.
get Larry King in this X-Men show. I mean, he's dead too.
No,
he wasn't then.
Larry King used to do cameos all the time. He was in Ghostbusters, for God's sake.
That's true. He was. There's a great interview. You can find clips of Ben Schwartz from like Parks and Rec and all that going on the Larry King show. It's a good time. They groove on each other a bit.
It's gonna drive me crazy that I can't think of the name of the show. It's fine. We go from here to breakfast with the DaCostas. This is when Stryker's on the news.
Oh, no, wait. We don't yet. We don't yet. Because first, we have Wolverine doesn't know that TVs have power buttons. He has to turn off the news. He just claws the TV. Oh, right. I forgot. We could switch it off.
He's destroying a lot of things in this show. He's very upset.
Yep.
The scene with DaCosta is very short. His mom is still trying to keep her son in the closet.
Yep.
Jubilee's very upset about it. She has a great line. She goes, "Come on, Roberto, you have a trust fund and I have good taste." And they go shopping.
And I like that, they get this sort of indictment in this episode of the kind of the Lindsay Bluth, like the fundraiser activist type, where it's like, we're going to raise money, but we're not going to do shit about anything.
Speaking of Bill O'Reilly, what Bill O'Reilly might call a limousine liberal.
Yeah.
Just sort of like, still benefiting from the way the system is, but pretending to be heartbroken about it.
That's exactly. Yes. But can't the system that I don't want dismantled just be a little nicer to these people that I feel a little bad for, I guess?
A kinder, gentler machine gun hand, as
yes.
As Neil Young would sing. We have Gene working on Rogue. This is the Nightcrawler scene.
Yeah.
They do a good job of utilizing him as sort of like the kindly priest who is consulting people and consoling people and talking through them. He
gets along with everyone. He gets along with the friendly, and he gets along with the tougher personalities. He's sincere and he's not judging them.
And he has a nice line here where Jean says she remembers Nathan kicking inside of her.
I wrote that one down too.
Which is such a, again, we're both fathers. And so the idea of that is it's almost like chilling.
Yeah, because I had thoughts about this line too. And it's especially in like animated series and stuff. I feel like and probably sitcoms and stuff like that, if they dealt with pregnancy at all, it was always like this very like kind of like sanitized, don't get too much into the body pieces of it, right? Keep it a little more, but like this, and this, it's not like it's like a gross line or anything, but it's just like, oh, it's a little more real about like, right. Just the physical reality of what it would be like to carry a child.
Yeah. The tactile nature of it.
Yeah.
And for it to be not real is very, it's like, it's almost, it's to me, it was very evocative line. I thought it was well done.
I agree.
Now on the flip side of that, there's an unfortunate, like a very clunky line where Jean says, "My friend Storm," where it's like she would call her Aurora. Like,
yeah. Oh, you're right. Good catch.
It almost feels like the studio, Disney coming in and being like, "Oh, people don't know the Storm's name's Aurora. You got to say Storm." Like one of those studio notes that makes my stomach turn. Nightcrawler here with a great line. He says, memories are dim images echoing with emotion. And the idea being, what does it matter if wasn't real so long as you know the emotions? Like the emotions tell you like the truth of it.
And we get into
very nice stuff.
Yeah, and we get into, and I think this is some episodes like hammer on it a little harder than others, but ultimately I think one of the through line themes that works really well in this this series is this theme of like chosen family, right?
Yes.
Regardless
Yep, I
of
wrote
the
the sign down,
circumstances,
too.
regardless of if someone's biologically related or a clone of someone or whatever, like they find each other, they choose that these are the people who are going to be there for each other. And I do like the resonance of that throughout the series.
Yeah, blood is blood, family is a choice.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot, but no matter how much tension they're able to build or how much action they're able to pack in or how many reveals, all of the stuff that X-Men is known for, they seem to always find time for those scenes where it's like, let's sit down, it's two characters, and they're talking about something that is fairly heavy, but they're doing it in a way where the characters are true to themselves and it just works.
You know what, Brett, if they didn't do that, if all they had was like the cool fight, like the fight sequences look great, right? If that's all this show, if it didn't have these, you and I would have said like, oh yeah, it looked pretty cool. We wouldn't have recorded hours of ourselves talking about this show if it was devoid of these moments. Like, but the reason it works is because it has these moments.
Oh, absolutely. It would have been that was cool. And then, followed by a shoulder shrug. But because it has stuff like that, where whether you're a kid who's discovering these types of shows for the first time, maybe you were very young or just weren't alive when 92 came out.
Yeah.
Or you're now a parent and you're like, man, some of these lines really hit. I think it's just very, very effective.
Agreed.
We see Cable with Jean and Psyche. They're going to Harmony, Pennsylvania to follow up on a lead. Sinister is working on whatever the hell he's working on, and Val Cooper comes in, and this might be my favorite line, scene, interaction in this episode, and one of the best in the entire series. She calls him Mangala.
Yep.
And Sinister reveals that he knew Mangala personally.
They used to go to dinner at that family's house that you told me about from that movie.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. They were hosted many times.
Oh, but he's disappointed in him.
Yes. He was like, "Oh, Mangala could have so
Nazi
much more."
Pups, or whatever he says.
Yeah. Just it's just a ridiculous thing.
Yep.
That is very funny to me.
Yep.
I just Sinister just palling around with Nazis and being like,
I haven't called him in years. I wonder what he's up to.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Learning the fate of Mangala.
Oh, I'll have to wake up one of his 11 clones I made.
Oh no, yeah. The Sinister has a base in Argentina with some pretty interesting things in test tubes.
Oh man.
He says pig pens brimming with mutant test subjects.
Oof.
Made me think of that is a direct reference to Age of Apocalypse, which I wonder if that would be what season 2 touches on at all.
I wonder. Well, we can get to speculating about that after the end of the season, but I do wonder where they'll go with that stuff. Is this around the time we see that for who knows what reason Bastion decided that Magneto needed to have no clothes as he's chained up to that big metal X?
Listen, he needed to make sure that he wasn't hiding any, strips of metal in his clothes.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was.
That he could manipulate to, it's like in Die Hard 3, when McClane rips that metal shiver out of his shoulder. It's like that.
But you can check for that once.
That's true.
Yeah.
A simple pat down would have sufficed.
You think he had him up there in like clothes first, and he was like, it doesn't quite tie the room together yet.
We do get it does enable us to get a shot of Magneto's tattoo.
It does. Ooh, I wonder, and I don't know, and I don't even remember what do you think the number is consistent across all the different, like, is it the same number on Ian McKellen's skin in the films as it has been if they ever zoom in on the books? Like, I don't care if it's fine if it's not, but that would be like an incredible eye for detail if they've kept that consistent.
It would. I mean, there are so many things in just superhero movies, especially, that's just like one of the banes of my existence, just an Easter egg, which I've grown tired of. But that is one where, like, if people were keeping it consistent, would almost be poignant. Yeah, in a weird way.
That's how I was feeling about it.
Yeah, but I highly doubt it is, but it would be interesting. I will say, if it is in the comics, I'm sure they show it multiple times in the comics. Probably. I would not be surprised if Chris Claremont made it consistent.
That wasn't his backstory until Claremont started writing him, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Claremont is the one who really made all of what we know of Magneto today is Claremont's creation.
Yeah, he brought him from just like, here's their comic book villain to like, here is this character that we can explore. Yeah, the tattoo, and we see Val Cooper feeling some regret about her role in all of this. Interesting character. They've had her kind of walking that line the entire time of not a bad person necessarily, but sure, like tied up with some shady shit.
Yeah, and I think it's a good continuation of what she's like from that era of the comics, where she's like this hard-nosed, government, sort of bureaucrat but soldier, where she's like, I don't really have anything personal against the X-Men, but I'm a human and we're not going to take any of your shit.
Yeah.
And I think that it's portrayed well here.
Yeah.
Get a quick scene with Beast and Tilby.
Well, which kind of beast?
Ah, yes.
Dr.
Beast.
Love Dr. Beast.
Great. And it's something that this episode does that I think it does a good job of, is it really starts moving the pieces in place without you realizing that the pieces are being moved into place.
Yes.
So we get Beast and Tilby together. She says no more yellow journalism for me, which made me think like, yeah, it's not really your choice. If you're a studio producer tells you to do it, you're doing it. That's
not us
works,
though. Our producers don't tell us shit.
No, we're masters of our own destiny here.
That's right. And we do. There's something I like you say about like moving the pieces here, but I don't know why I just on some level assumed like, okay, whatever's happening with Beast and studying this, like that's gonna play out maybe over the course of the whole rest of the season of like, right, that's kind of like a general like a slow boil in the background thing. But he's like, no, in a few seconds we'll know where all of them are. And I was like, oh, we're diving in. Here we go.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it almost could be like a C plot that's sort of over the next couple episodes emerges into like the A plot, but nope,
they don't waste any time.
Yeah.
Just, hey, Beast, he's good at his job.
Yeah, and we go to Harmony, PA.
Oh boy,
we get this nice spooky neighborhood and home. Bastion's mom is oddly calm the entire time.
All right,
she doesn't appear to be.
Let's talk about this mom. Let's talk about this home. There's a movie, Brett, you may have seen it, that hasn't aged well, but when I was in like, I don't know, 6th grade, was one of my favorite movies. You've seen Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, right?
Oh my God, of course. Not for many years, but I know it well.
Unfortunately transphobic movie, but oh boy, this house, this mom, this is some laces out shit.
It's weird. So one of the things I don't get, and we can talk about it now, like she turns into a sentinel, a zombie sentinel. Is she in on it?
It's not clear.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like it would be better if we knew. I kind of wish we knew. Maybe it gets cleared up in the next episode, the last episode. But like, I kind of wish I knew what her views towards mutants were. Because if she was just sort of, if she's like this unwitting pawn,
yeah,
it's not as interesting to me as if she's like, yeah, mutants, fuck them, make me a robot. You know what I mean? If she's just like, she's just so bent by her hatred of mutants that she's just like, yeah, turn me into this freak.
So
I feel like that would be more interesting.
I didn't investigate this myself because I'm a fake fan, listener, and you would be listener, you'd be better at this podcast. You're right. But the 2-part episode in the original series, the One Man's Worth, which is Days of Future Past-ish, it's Bishop and Shard and Nimrod and all that stuff, and I think Fitzroy's there.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not Nimrod. Yes, Nimrod. I think I read that his mom is a character from like a minor character, like a waitress in a bar where Wolverine and Storm get accosted for not for being mutants, but for being an interracial couple.
Oh, really?
I think.
Yeah, because it's back in time.
Yes,
it's when they're visiting Professor X at the university.
Yes,
and Storm is like, she's like, racial prejudice. What are you, out of your mind?
Quaint. Yeah,
she's like, how quaint.
But yeah, I think I read that she is like a waitress in that episode or something at the bar, and like the father might have been a minor character in the episode too. It's a deep cut. I don't know if they were named characters at the time. I haven't gone back and rewatch it because that's me, folks.
We have too much on our plates. But that would be interesting. Maybe if I have time tomorrow, I'll look into it. But here's another question. Creepy kids, creepy drawings always get under my skin, even before I had kids. But you show me a creepy kid and they're drawing like an image of what will be, goes right up my spine.
Yeah.
And Bastion's origin story is weird. I wrote evil Alex MacPuddle impregnating a man, Mpreg.
Oh,
that was my note.
So let's combine that with Nimrod gave Bastion's dad Sentinel jizz, and I think we're onto something. That's my note on it.
Oh yeah, no, we're onto something.
We're onto something. That's the one thing that Alex Mack show was missing.
Yeah, and it's actually one of the things that I'm super confused about. I also wrote half mutant, half robot, half man. So was he a mutant? Like, was he gonna be a mutant, but then the robot part came in? Or is he just purely a product? Like, was he just gonna be a human and the robot stuff took over?
That's not super clear. I
Yeah.
don't feel like I got a solid answer from watching. And is it like he's functionally equivalent to a mutant, but it's not the X gene. It is this whatever Sentinel
Yeah,
Jizz,
yeah.
Alex Max Sentinel Jizz.
Hmm.
Buy it today, folks. Order right into to us, and you can order your own Alex Max Sentinel Jizz.
Oh Lord. I'm loath to ask for more exposition, but that would have helped me a little bit.
That's fair.
Not a backbreaker, but
You ain't wrong.
something that I was interested in. We get the Bastion, and this is some dark shit.
Oh yeah,
He's talking to Val Cooper,
first, yeah.
and he's talking about the brilliance of what he did in Genosha. And he said the line is overload their bandwidth, too much to compute, which is basically make something so horrible happen that people just sort of turn away from it. And made me very unfortunately think of what's happening, nowadays in Gaza,
Oh yeah.
which is just like this idea of like make it so horrific that people feel like paralyzed by how terrible it is.
Right.
And so they just sort of instead of
so it feels too big to do anything about and too horrible to look at for more than a few seconds. Yeah.
yeah, as opposed to like half measures where it's revolting enough that you react to it, as opposed to just being like you can't even look at it.
Well, and he outlined, and it's in the same sequence of things he's talking about, but the how much he's engineering this, not just but like to specifically cultivate public opinion one way or another. But when he talks about but the mistake that you bully an underdog long enough, people start to root for him, and then you get tolerance. But really, we know what it is. It's guilt. And I'm like, this is fairly insightful.
Mm-hmm.
And what is he throws, like, was it Gyrick under the bus? Like, that idiot. He made people feel bad for them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow,
no,
it's chilling the amount of like, I'm setting the dominoes and I'm going to knock them over because I know what I'm doing kind of persona he has.
Yeah, it's one of those things where there are a lot of movies, and some superhero movies, and some people love these movies, which is fine, that sort of portray themselves as very dark and edgy, but I would not say that they're dark and edgy. But like this scene and like this speech here I think is pretty chilling, where it's just like the calculation of evil and how, I mean, there are people in real life, like, overload their bandwidth. Made me think of the by now infamous Steve Bannon line of load the zone with shit.
Yeah.
Which is like just say so much stuff, whether it's lies or half truths or whatever, and just overload people to the point where they just say like, well, fuck it. No one knows what's true. And you kind of destroy the concept of a shared reality.
Yeah, no, the point of disinformation is not for people to believe the lie. It's for people to not believe anything.
Yeah. And how just like insanely nihilistic that is.
Tremendously. It's poison for a culture and a civilization.
Yeah, and like just like how much darker that is than a Zack Snyder movie. I always feel bad because he by all accounts is a super nice guy. I just can't stand his movies.
I know a lot of super nice people that I doubt would be good at making movies.
Oh sure, but still, I mean, you know me. Like I really take a bet to that dude's reputation. But like I don't know. I found the scene, and I think the voice actor again for Bastion is just great.
Yep.
Just super effective. We get cameos here from Doom, Doctor's Doom, from Zemo, and there's a girl who talks. I had the subtitles on, and usually if somebody like is speaking but their face is on screen, it'll say like their name in brackets.
Yeah.
This girl does not get a name, and I'm wondering.
I also watch with subtitles on, and I noticed the same.
I usually don't, because it like I can't help but read them, and so like keeps my eye away from the visuals. But I'm wondering, and maybe not, but I'm wondering if maybe that character is going to be somebody like Cassandra Cain or somebody.
I don't know.
Not Cassandra Cain. That's from DC. Cassandra Nova.
Oh, that character I know a little bit about.
Yeah. I'm getting my comic books mixed up, but yeah, it made me think like, oh, maybe she is somebody, and they're keeping her secret for now.
And I thought it was an interesting. Because you mentioned the Doctor Doom cameo. Doctor Doom, he looks down on war crimes a bit.
Yes.
Now that's an interesting read on this character.
I actually don't know a lot about Doom, so maybe that is in line with this character.
Maybe it is.
But yeah, no, he's not happy with these methods.
No, and I had like what exposure I've had to him has mostly been through his relatively scant appearances in X-Men stuff. But I know he was, you can't throw a rock in a Fantastic Four comic without hitting Doctor Doom. But he showed up in like basically every Marvel comic at some point or another.
He's
one of those like entire franchise world level villain characters. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big deal. This is when this is basically our parlor scene where Bastion is telling us what his grand plan is and how he's doing it. And we get this fantastic shot of this dude with this blonde guy with a mustache, this Kentucky waterfall haircut. And this is when the social metaphor gets poured on pretty thick here, which I don't mind. But Bastion's talking about guys like this getting radicalized by going into chat rooms.
Oh yeah. Brett, it's your thesis on life in the modern era. The internet has ruined everything.
Oh, it's a nightmare. Yeah. It's an abject nightmare. But he says a line here that I thought was really interesting. I meant to go back and rewatch it, but I didn't. He says, "Oh, like this guy, he would like get hit on at a local dive bar by a mutant, and like that's what sets him off."
Yeah. Oh, yep.
And it made me think about how so much of this series it really leans into the idea of X-Men as metaphor for queer culture.
Oh, certainly. Yes.
And like that's always kind of been there, but any marginalized group. But this season in particular just really, I think, does a great job of having things that are on the nose, like the sunspot stuff like coming out to his mom, but things like this, which I think would probably go over somebody's head who is not more aware of queer culture. Maybe like it would just be a line that they like don't think about.
Yeah.
But if you are aware of the stuff, you're like, oh, that's like very specifically like a dangerous thing that like people in queer culture like think about, like just bumping into the wrong person in a dive bar, and misreading something and making a potentially fatal mistake.
Not even misreading.
Very interesting stuff.
How many of these incidents are things where they were minding their own business, some hateful person didn't realize who and what they were and hit on them, and then is enraged when they realize.
That's true.
Right? Like it is just nightmare scenarios out there.
Yeah, no, you're right. We're back in Harmony and we get the creepiest painting yet.
This was the final dream.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask Matt, how would you react if one of your lovely children presented you with a picture like this? Maybe not the X-Men, but an apocalyptic vision of the future.
Hey,
and
Brett,
like, Daddy, what do you think?
You can quote me on this. I'd be concerned.
Yeah.
I'd be a little impressed that their artistic skill has evolved to such a level, but a bit horrified at what they produced.
Yeah, and the thing about kids is you can do everything you can do, but sometimes they're just creepy.
Yeah. Well,
like even
yes,
kids who are relatively normal, like 70% of the time, they're just creepy sometimes.
Yep. And the way that mom introduces the pain, I know I made the reference already, but it is right on note with that mom from Ace Ventura. This is her holding up the final dream. Laces out.
She's Norman Bates in drag. She's really going for it here.
Yep.
She transforms, and this is basically the hammer falling down, and
she's retired. She can be a robot like she's always wanted to now.
She has her robot RV out in the driveway. She's gonna
finally see the Grand Canyon.
Yes.
Oh boy.
And this is where, man, I was pausing and starting and taking notes constantly because from this point on, I think like the remaining 16 minutes, we're just jumping from scene to scene, and I was trying desperately to try to keep track of it.
Yes.
But we get Jubilee gets her new costume, her new outfit, which is really cool, and then the butler turns on them.
It's just clothes she was trying on. It's not like a super suit. She's just like, I like this outfit.
Yeah, it's like a black bodysuit with the yellow jacket. Oh, it looks great. Yeah. She's dressed into a robot, and I wrote down a riff on the Homer Simpson joke. He lives out the American dream and tries to kill his boss.
And then you're right. We jump back to Dr. Beast and Trish, and the whole little globe display thing goes nuts. There's Prime Sentinels everywhere, and we get Beast. Oh my stars and garters, which is Beast for oh fuck.
Yes, that's as vulgar as he
Yeah.
gets. But this is a thing that again, it's one of the reasons why I'm not crazy about this enemy.
Mm.
Like, why is Trilby a robot? Like, when did she offer herself up?
So, but
Because she's not.
that's and maybe I'm misremembering, but and maybe it's even in a different episode, but I feel like there was a line somewhere about some of them signed up and just some didn't even know.
Yeah, but like, then how do they? I mean, I'm not. I don't need everything to be explained to me, but it's like, well, then how did they get to her? And also,
So I
so
guess
like it happens.
no. Go finish your thought, and then I'll answer.
So it happens, and then, but it's also like she completely changes who she is. Like, I can see Bastion's mom.
Hmm.
Like, if she really hated mutants, she changes and then she's attacking. But like, so like they become these robot zombies, and like, does Bastion control their emotion? Does like a program get activated in their brains? Like, why is she all of a sudden like, I have to kill mutants? Because Trilby as a person is not hateful towards mutants,
Has
whereas
not appeared to be.
the Kentucky Waterfall guy,
Yeah.
who like he signed up for this. Like, he,
Sure.
as soon as he gets the power to kill, like, he's gonna want to kill.
So I think an explanation that could make sense is, given that so much of like Bastion's plan involved how do you sway public opinion around these things, was she targeted specifically because like she was the most popular or a popular news reporter? Like, she has big ratings,
Yeah.
people will listen to her, so he gets to manipulate things a bit here. I don't know.
Yeah, but no one's gonna listen to her when she's like jacked up and like has purple veins coming out of her
No,
face.
not now, but was there any influence prior? Maybe not. Maybe it was all genuine and then it's just a mind takeover. You're right. It's not really clear how it works in relation to the person's their original mind, their original persona, and like how much is overwritten just by like Sentinel shit.
Yeah, yeah. I think it would annoy me less if it was a lesser show. Like, if it was just a show where it's like we're just cartoon characters punching each other in the face, I'd be like, oh, fine, here's more cannon fodder. But because it's such a tightly written show, because it's so much care is taken with the characters and the world, it's like, this feels a little cheap. We're just sort of like body jacking people to create enemies.
Yeah.
Not a backbreaker for the show, but we've been building towards this, and these enemies, these cannon fodder enemies are sort of like a shoulder shrug for me. Beast gets kicked through the floor.
Oh, he sure does.
And she comes up, and Wolverine with a great line. I got to talk to Hank about his taste in women.
And this is when they turn into the Juggernaut, I think.
Yes.
Yep. And gets tossed around anyway. And
we get knocked into the mansion library, which
Yes.
is very cool, and the swords fall to the ground.
Yep. Because then, what is it? Wolverine is of course still fighting and gets dragged up into the sky, and then I don't know. I enjoyed it. This scene of him like falling down towards the mansion and just slashing everything in his way on the way.
Yeah, it's a great, for a character who has not had a lot of badass moments, like, Rogue has had, and Cyclops has had, and Storm has had. Like, this episode feels very much like Wolverine coming back to life. Yes. In terms of, who he is. We get that picture of the original team is burning in the fire. Yeah. And there's a cool shot of Wolverine like standing in the fire. We have what I would call battle damage Wolverine, where it's like his shirt's basically ripped off except for one string over one shoulder. Yep. Speaking of like the violence, you said like, oh, maybe the robots are there because we don't want heroes doing violence. But there are a number of shots of Wolverine just stabbing these people in the back and his claws popping out of their bodies.
I don't think that's a counterpoint. I think that's part of the same point is if they actually died. They couldn't get it. This lets them get away with like, okay, we can see Wolverine actually being Wolverine here and just slicing and dicing. Boy, do we get a good moment with that coming up here when they're advancing on unconscious Rogue. And you're right, it is the claws coming through, and then we get, I got 6 reasons. No, my friend, 9. And
yes,
I'm like, this. I'm here for this.
Yeah, it's great.
Wolverine and Nightcrawler being like battle buddies, it is right back to that Claremont era, and it's Nightcrawler getting to be a swashbuckler and use swords, and I like the fight choreography. I like Nightcrawler. He's not just using swords; he's teleporting people away and hopping back in. And there's the scene of like for Wolverine, what it's like to get sucked through one of Nightcrawler's teleports.
That looks awesome.
Yeah.
That's such an awesome shot. There's a really cool touch here. I recognize the song, but I didn't have time to find it. When Nightcrawler is fighting, there's like an orchestral song playing.
Oh, yeah.
That is a riff on an actual classical piece of music.
Okay. That
I've heard before, but I mean, all classical music is like Adagio 3, Primo One, and it's like I'm not gonna remember the name of this fucking song, but it is a song I've listened to in the past, and it's a cool piece of music, and it's very fitting that it would be like this classical piece of music for Nightcrawler while he's fighting. I really like that touch.
Me too.
Other things going on at this time is Jubilee and Roberto are running in the mall. I love seeing a shot of the mall.
Yep.
Jean is saving Cable and Cyclops with her telekinesis to get away from what is now an entire neighborhood of robots coming after them.
Yep.
And that's another weird thing where Bastion has turned the neighborhood he grew up in into robots. It's one of those things that I'm complaining about these robots and what does it mean, and clearly I would argue it's all a metaphor for like radicalization, like, you know, this small PA town has been radicalized in all that shit. So like it works as a metaphor, but doesn't necessarily work at this literally scale. I don't think.
Yeah. Fair.
But
it's that, but then further heightened to fit a sci-fi action cartoon.
Yeah. Jubilee is upset because everybody can fly but her, and then he's upset to find that Roberto can also fly, and he saves her.
He's still working on steering though.
Yeah.
And then I said it, but then the show says like, okay, they know, but they just go through Blackbirds.
Yes.
They must buy them in bulk. They buy their jets at Costco. They just.
Jean says it's the third one in as many months. There's a cute moment where she puts Cable's seatbelt on for him.
Yes,
very motherly. I like that.
It is, yeah. And what's the line here? They drive the car out of the plane, and Cable, and I guess there's brand recognition in the future on this. Cable's like,
yes,
you have a Porsche, and then I like that they just gave Cyclops like a little shitty grin about it.
Yes, yep.
He's proud of it, and then
he would drive a Porsche too. That pretty boy.
He would. And then do we jump back to Brazil where they crash into the big fundraiser donor party, and apparently the Prime Sentinels have enough like presence of mind to be like, we don't kill.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very weird. I did enjoy that we crashed this posh party like it's a slobs versus snobs 80s boob comedy. But yeah, we get, I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but we get his mom saying my son in Portuguese, which is a nice touch. And then they're getting arrested.
It's the indictment of that kind of like, yeah, we'll have a rich party, but like push comes to shove, you know, go with the officer's son. Like sentencing him to death, basically. And convincing herself that she's not, that this is just, we're going to play by the rules and everything will be okay.
Yeah. It's a great indictment of like, literally will not even stand up for her own son.
Yes.
Because it's in front of her rich friends.
Right. I will help you as long as it doesn't jeopardize my position within the system.
Yeah. Status is a hell of a drug. Bastion is at the mansion.
Yeah.
He gets a phone call from Sinister, who's very upset because Val Cooper let Magneto out.
Yep.
He's like, she's out of her mind. Bastion can make portals, which is a strange power.
Yeah, the tone with which Sinister says it too. It's like when someone's like, left the door wide open and the cat got out. Yes. We've warned her 1,000 times. You have to close the door.
This is why you close the door when the air conditioner's on. Somebody touched the thermostat and Sinister's not having it.
Yeah, he goes back to give her a talking to.
Yeah. We get a great speech here by Val Cooper. Yep. Yeah, the line that I wrote down, she's talking about how they were at the party and she's like, you know, I didn't feel fear or anger. The thing that stood out to me was that no one seemed shocked or surprised.
Yeah. And the
good stuff.
Yeah, and the speech culminates with the Magneto was right. We've been building to this line. And this, I believe the timing of it's intercut with Magneto flying to either the North or South Pole in his fucking underwear still.
I'm sure something the magnetic field around his body keeps him warm. You know how it is.
Yeah. The rest of the time he's just wearing clothes for fun.
Yeah, that's right.
But they don't explain. They explain it in a subsequent episode, but that what looks like maybe he's just doing a big pulse. He is like inverting the polarity of the Earth's like magnetic, like magnosphere, whatever it is. That's how he's able to have this big of an effect. He's using the Earth as his big magnet.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, this is great. Just like X-Men stuff. You know, Magneto. I love whenever we're fucking with the world. You know, somebody's using their powers at a global scale. We get a bunch of cameos here: Spider-Man, Silver Samurai, Omega Red.
Yep, and all them written.
One thing. So like he shuts these things down, and these robots are dropping from the sky, and I'm like, well, if they're not turned on anymore, does the human form get turned into jelly when it hits the ground after it falls from the sky?
Yeah, they look like Senator Kelly in the X-Men movie.
Oh yeah, he's just a big jellyfish.
Yeah, no, I think I don't know. They probably keep their durability, but they wake up in the middle of a highway or something.
With a hell of a backache.
Oh, yeah.
And then we get the where's Charles? We need him.
Yeah.
He shows up. To me, my X-Men. Pretty good ending.
Not bad. We've talked about... I've never loved that catchphrase. It's fine. It's exactly fine. And it works better with Xavier saying it than Cyclops.
Yes.
There's a lot to like here. I think you're right. Some of it, the emotional weight of fighting, right, the nameless horde of unkill. I think you said it really well earlier, but it just doesn't hold the same emotional stakes as a conflict against like an actual entity, right? Whether it's Magneto or Bastion or whoever. Like there is something more compelling about that. But we're getting there. We're building to that.
We are, yeah. And, you know, and like I said, if it was a lesser show, I wouldn't mind it as much. But because, like, and again, I think we've had so many great speeches on the show. So, you know, like Val Cooper's probably isn't going to be as good as the one Magneto gives in episode 2, which is an all-timer. Mm-hmm. But, you know, her giving this speech, and we're intercutting with Jubilee and Roberto sort of being arrested right from his mom with his mom's consent, basically. You know, and we're just we're showing Cable, Cyclops, and Jean being assaulted on all sides, and Jean's sort of force field is kind of giving way.
Yep.
It's just a nice illustration of like you have this guy Bastion who's like, well, we're so, you know, poor us, humanity's, you know, sort of coming apart.
Oh.
We need to fight back. And it's like showing us like, no, dude, like the people that you're claiming are like destroying you are a minority. Like they're literally being hunted.
It's the look what you made me do defense. It is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Ethically bankrupt, morally hollow. All right. So that's episode 8. And
a pretty good episode. We don't really give grades on the show, but I would say it's like a B+.
That sounds about right, with some moments that transcend that.
Yeah, you know,
I'm a sucker for the Wolverine Nightcrawler.
Yeah. Oh, I think like the pulling through the teleportation is super cool. Like when I first saw the episode, I was like, oh, that's really awesome. Yes. And then this time around, I was like, that's still friggin' awesome. Yeah, that part rocks. And yeah, there's a lot of great stuff here. But yeah, I think, and also the fact that it's like the first of a 3-part ending kind of prevents it from really reaching a crescendo. But they do a good job. It's one of the better episodes, but there have been so many great episodes from this season that it can't really break through that ceiling.
No, it's got its foot on the gas, but it's still accelerating.
Yeah.
All right. So before we close, Brett, I got another feature for us.
Can't wait.
All right. This one is called X Marks the Spot.
Okay.
And what I've done is I've prepared some like travel poster kind of taglines that I'll read to you. And you'll have to guess what location from the world of the X-Men people are being invited to visit.
Oh, boy. Okay, here we go.
So we'll start. Hopefully this will be a softball one. A world-class education awaits very special students in beautiful Westchester County, New York. Come visit
the X-Men Mansion at Gray Malkin Lane.
Ooh, good call on the address. Yes, I had.
Is there a number?
I think there is, but I don't know it off the top of my head. I had it as Professor Xavier's School for the Gifted or the Xavier Institute for Higher Learning, but yes, it's the X Mansion. Multiple names for the same place. Get away from it all, floating in Earth's orbit, powered by one of the fundamental forces of our universe. Come visit
Asteroid M.
Hell yeah, I bet this is going to be easier than last episode.
Well, last one, you know what though? I need a gimme because I got my ass whipped last time. I embarrassed myself.
A tropical paradise full of adventure awaits you in the heart of Antarctica, rich in nature's history. Come visit.
The Savage Land.
Yes, excellent. Endless spine-tingling entertainment, if you've got one, in a convenient pocket dimension. Don't just watch. Come visit.
Mojoverse?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Mojo World. Mojoverse, yeah.
Mojo World, yeah.
Among Irish castles, there is no finer place to spend the night. You'll scream with joy at the comforts and history you'll encounter. Come visit.
Muir Island. Muir Island. One of my favorite places in all of...
Nope, not Muir Island.
It's not Muir Island?
No, this is Irish castles.
Oh, is that...
scream with joy.
It's Banshee's Castle.
Yes.
The hell's the name of it, though?
You want me to tell you?
But isn't Banshee's Castle on Muir Island?
No, he's from Ireland.
I thought Muir Island was like part of Ireland.
Oh, no,
like
it's
off
Scotland.
the coast of Ireland.
Muir Island is Scotland, so still in Great Britain.
I didn't know that.
Yep. Cassidy Keep, this is.
Cassidy Keep.
Yes. Enjoy culture, commerce, and luxury overlooking the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Dazzling days in Hightown, thrilling nights in Lowtown. Come visit.
Oh my God, I know it.
You do.
It's Madripoor.
It is Madripoor, exactly.
Yes. I was like Madagascar? No, that's not right at all.
Yes. The jewel in the crown of the greatest empire in the universe, perched like royalty on the throne world. Come visit. I think
it's Shi'ar related.
You probably know it, but can't think of the name of it. Yes, it is Shi'ar related.
It's funny. I feel like whenever I see the Shi'ar, it's always on a ship. I don't know what the planet is called.
Chandelar. I'm not sure of the exact pronunciation. That's their main planet. Lose all your troubles at the greatest theme park in the world, a macabre masquerade so magnificent almost nobody leaves. If you dare, come visit.
Is this have to do with arcade?
Yes. Yeah, this is from the comics. He hasn't been in this show.
What is, I don't know the name of his Arcade's Gambit? No.
But you did get, you know what it is. You're just struggling on the name.
Yeah.
Murder World.
Murder World, damn it.
And there's been multiple Murder Worlds. Every time Arcade shows up, he's got a new Murder World. I wonder if they'll ever use that character on the show. Anyway.
He feels too cartoonish. If it was like a one-off, I could see them doing it. But now that they're like season-long arcs, probably not. But he would be a fun episode.
They'd have to be on point to do it in a way that didn't feel supremely goofy. Yeah.
But you know what, though? That's the thing is when you have like the original show and you have one-offs or even like 2 episodes and then like a one-off and then like 2 episodes. Yeah. You can have a goofy episode or a goofy arc. Yeah.
Right. Come meet the North's finest and see the operations of the Canadian government firsthand. We've made preparations to greet you. Come visit.
Oh, what is that place called?
We've made preparations to greet you.
Preparation H.
Yeah, Department H.
Department H,
yeah,
that's it.
The place that did the Weapon X program.
Yeah.
See a whole...
It has, what's the name of that team?
Alpha
that team
Flight.
is called Alpha Flight. That's right.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of, referencing a past episode here, we talked about I think it was just the previous episode, Bright Eyes with the funeral. There was a woman at Gambit's funeral that looked familiar to both of us and we couldn't place her. I went digging and apparently the internet cannot agree. There are like equally vocal camps. One says that she's Aurora from Alpha Flight, and they're like, why is she there? I guess she was a cameo in the Slave Island stuff, the first Genosha stuff in the show, so maybe they remember. Okay. But another is that she is this obscure like Assassin's Guild character called Singer, who's been I've never heard of this character before, but like there was sharp disagreement amongst some very vocal fans on the internet over whether it's Aurora or Singer.
Man, people, if anybody's listening, if you're in those arguments, you got to get a hug. Like, it's fun to argue, but like, there's going to come a point in your life where you look back on that and you're like, I can't believe I spent all that time arguing with strangers about. I mean,
Brett, the level of detail that they go into too, because like they do screen caps of the woman at the funeral and then a confirmed Aurora cameo in the last episode when they shows like Psylocke with Alpha Flight in a little shot, and there's commenting on the exact the drawing of the hair, like how how each wave, each curl, it's an exact match. And I'm like, that is compelling, but boy, how hard do you have to be paying attention to notice that?
You could be learning so many skills. The internet.
We're doing a podcast about the same show.
but we're having fun. We're two
fun.
Dads in our late 30s just trying to have a conversation.
I am not in my late 30s, but I'm flattered.
You know what, though?
They don't even know I've crossed that 40 barrier, my friend.
But you know what? But at least we're engaging in a fun way.
Yes.
Like you could be watching great movies. You'd be reading great books. It's all on the internet. So much of it is for free. This is what you're doing. The internet has destroyed people. It breaks my heart.
All right. We got a few more of these.
Let's do it.
See a whole other side of New York City, away from the bright lights, a true underground scene full of unique, authentic culture. Come visit.
The Morlock Tunnels.
That's it. A premier research facility gleaming off the coast of Scotland. Expand your mind and your horizons. Come visit.
You're right.
There it is.
One of my favorite places in all of the X-verse.
Very cool. Last one. Finally, a homeland for mutants. See the... Oh no. You know what? Don't visit.
Genosha.
Yep. That's what we're going to close on.
Oh boy, grim stuff. Good job.
Yeah. And that'll do it. That is episode 8. That was Tolerance is Extinction Part 1. And next time we'll get into Tolerance is Extinction Part 2. And we will see you next time.
Oh, come on.
Our theme song was written and recorded by Cheer Captain. Find Cheer Captain at cheercaptain.bandcamp.com. To contact Matt or Bret, email us at manchildrenoftheatom@gmail.com.